All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 11 o'clock, so let's get started with today's 1031 Exchange webinar. First and foremost, I hope everybody's doing okay. I know that most of you guys, like me, were without power for the last couple days, and that was pretty darn annoying, wasn't it? So we're glad to have our power back on. We've got our internet, and our kids can learn on their Zoom classes, so we're pretty happy. It's been a wild ride for about 9 months now, and hopefully we will be getting back to normal soon. But we're making the best of it, and I hope you guys are too. Today's webinar is going to be a lot of information about growing your business. And the angle that we take in today's webinar is how you can grow your business using the 1031 exchange. And the reason why we talk about growing your business through the 1031 exchange is because my company is a 1031 exchange accommodator. And we've been working with investors for about 20 years, and we think we know a little bit about what motivates investors to do deals and do 1031 exchanges. And we want to share that with you and give you an opportunity to hopefully understand the 1031 exchange market and understand how to market specifically to investors who might be doing 1031 exchanges. So that's what we're going to do today. My name is Leonard Spoto, and I run a company called Asset Exchange Company. We are one of the preferred 1031 exchange accommodators for Cornerstone Escrow. And it doesn't look like we have Kelly Vincelette on the call today, but she was the one who organized this program for us. And you guys probably all know the escrow reps and title reps over at Cornerstone, who are all fantastic. So I know Suzanne Borg is on the phone or is on the line, but I don't see Kelly, and I see Sarah. So we might be able to give them an opportunity a little bit later to show and talk about some of the tools that they have as well. So thank you all for joining today. Again, my name is Leonard Spoto, and the company I work for is Asset Exchange Company. And for those of you who don't know Asset Exchange Company or myself, we, as I mentioned, are a 1031 exchange accommodator. We do about 100 to 150 1031 exchange transactions each and every month. So we're a pretty good sized 1031 firm. We've been around for a long time doing this. And a lot of people still, if you're a realtor, you may not have ever worked with a 1031 exchange accommodator, or if you did, maybe it's a while ago and you can't quite remember what they did. So just a little bit about us. When clients do 1031 exchanges, they can defer the taxes on the sale of an investment property. But when they do that, they have to work with a neutral third party to facilitate the transaction. That's where my company comes in. We are going to hold all of the sale proceeds from the sale of the property. We're going to prepare all the legal documents so that it's properly documented as a 1031 exchange transaction, and we're going to make sure that the clients are in compliance with the 1031 exchange rules and regulations. Now, we've been around for a long time. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, but I started this company back in 2006. We, as a company, are fully insured and bonded. We have a tax attorney on staff who is licensed with both the Board of Accountancy and the State Bar. And then one of the unique things about my company is that we do provide all of our clients with audit support. So just a little bit of information about our company so you know who you're working with here and who you're dealing with. Now, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of our presentation today. How do you grow your business with 1031 exchange? Well, here's the magic formula. Take a look at your screen right now. So the first thing you need to do is you need to understand the 1031 exchange process. But more importantly, you need to understand why an investor will do an exchange. And then if you're going to go out and you want to grow your business, well, you're going to have to market solutions to investors. I know that a lot of realtors market themselves, right? You say, I'm the best agent in the area. I've done so many deals. Well, that's great. That's a good way to market. But I think when you're working with investors, they are going to appreciate a solutions-based approach. What is their pain and how can you solve it? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about that as it relates to real estate investors. And then finally, and very importantly as well, is you can't do this stuff alone. So you're going to need to build a top-notch team to help you get this done. So we are happy to be your 1031 exchange partner, your consultant, your go-to 1031 people. But in addition to us, a lot of your marketing is going to be done in conjunction with your title rep. So you've got the team at Cornerstone Title who can do a lot of legwork for you and help you go through and figure out who to market to, create compelling lists of prospects, and you can get all that information pretty easily from your reps over at Cornerstone. So building that top-notch team is going to be crucial, and we think here on this call, you've got the partners to help you get started. All right, so let's talk a little bit about 1031, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it is important that you understand what 1031 exchange is if you're going to start going out and trying to do 1031 transactions with investors. So Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code is just a piece of tax law that allows you to sell an investment property and defer taxes, right? You guys probably all know that. It's been called the single greatest wealth building tool available to investors because what happens when you take advantage of Section 1031, you don't have to pay your taxes, right? And for a lot of people, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars that would have gone to the government on a traditional sale, but they don't have to pay that money. Now, on average here in California, if you sell an investment property, you're going to pay about 33% in total taxes. That's the tax rate when you combine the federal and the state taxes. And when you do your 1031 exchange, you don't have to pay that. All right, so at a very high level, when you think 1031, it is simply a mechanism for deferring your tax bill on the sale of your investment property. Now, with that said, there are some things that you need to do to properly complete your 1031 exchange. So number one, you need to make sure that your properties qualify. What type of properties are eligible for 1031? Well, properties that are used for business or investment, and properties that are like kind. All right, so a couple things that won't be eligible for 1031. Number one, foreign property. Number two, quick flips. And number three, which I don't have on here because it's pretty evident, your primary residence, right? You never do a 1031 exchange on your primary residence. So if you're selling a home, that is not going to be a 1031 exchange. Now, in the 1031 exchange world, you've got a lot of flexibility. You could sell land and you can exchange into a rental home. You could sell the rental home, go into an apartment building, go from the apartment building to the office building. You have a lot of flexibility on the type of real estate that you can exchange in and out of as long as those properties are used for investment or business purposes. Number two, when you do your 1031 exchange, if you do not want to pay taxes, you need to remember a couple important things. First and foremost, if you don't want to pay taxes, you have to reinvest all of your cash. And number two, you need to make sure that you purchase property equal or greater in value. Let me give you a quick example. You're going to sell an investment property for $1 million. If you don't want to pay taxes, you need to go out and buy another investment property for $1 million. All right. A lot of people think that all they have to do is reinvest the profit. That is not the case. Whenever you do an exchange, if you don't want to pay taxes, you have to replace the value of what you sold with another investment property. So again, if you sell for $1 million, you're going to want to buy replacement property for $1 million or more. All right. And then third requirement for a proper, successful 1031 exchange is that you need to get it done on time. All right. When you do your exchange, you have 180 days from the day you close escrow to go out and buy your replacement property. And very importantly, within that time frame is day 45. Day 45 is the day that you have to nominate what you're thinking about buying. All right, so you actually have to fill out an identification letter on day 45 stating what you're going to consider to purchase to complete your exchange. Now, how do you do that? Well, that is our fourth and final guideline. How do you fill out your identification letter? Well, your identification letter looks just like this. And you go and you put on that letter your name, you sign it, and you date it. And then on that letter, you need to put all of the properties that you're thinking about buying. And then once you submit that letter on day 45, you cannot change it. So it's important that you know the rules for filling out this letter. There are two methods. You can use the first method, which is called the 3 property rule, and you can submit up to 3 properties on that letter. And very importantly, once you submit those 3, you can't change them after day 45. So you got to make sure that you buy something on your list once you've submitted that list on day 45. Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, geez, I'd love to go out and buy 4 or 5 or 10 properties, when you fill out your letter on day 45, if you would like to put down on your list more than 3 properties, you have to use what's called the 200% rule. The 200% rule allows you to identify as many properties as you want. However, the total value of all the real estate cannot exceed 200% of what you sold. So if you sell a property for $1 million, using the 200% rule, you could identify $2 million worth of real estate. And it could be 10 properties or 15 properties if you go out to Texas. Right? So a couple different ways to fill out your ID letter on day 45. Most of our clients use the 3 property rule because most clients will sell one, buy one. But if you're looking to go out, leave California like a lot of people are right now, you go to a different state where you can pick up $200,000 properties like in Texas, well, that might lend itself to using the 200% rule. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, it's that simple. Okay? 1031 exchanges, if you're going to do them with investors, it's important that you know those basics. And I went over those basics really fast. I only spent about 10 minutes on them, but they're important. All right? So again, rule number 1, make sure your properties qualify. You're not going to do a 1031 exchange on a primary residence. It's only your investment property. If you don't want to pay taxes when you do an exchange, you have to reinvest all of your cash and purchase property equal or greater in value. You have 180 days to do your exchange, and you need to identify what you're thinking about buying on day 45. All right? If you remember these basics, you can have very good conversations about 1031 exchanges with investors. Now, if you get off this webinar and you forget all of that, all you need to do is remember my phone number, and I'm going to put it on the screen here. You should put this phone number in your cell phone and put me on speed dial, because if you start having a conversation with a client and you can't remember those identification rules, pick up the phone, call me real quick. Anyone on my team can help you out. We're all very well versed in all these rules, and all you need to do is put us on a conference call, and we will consult with your clients and you about the process and the steps they need to do and answer all their questions. All right. Your area of expertise is selling and buying real estate, or helping clients do that, right? My area of expertise is the tax law. Don't think that you need to be an expert on the tax law. That's what I'm here for. All right. All you need to know is how these basic principles work and why your clients might want to employ the 1031 exchange, because that's going to help you serve your client, help you do deals, and make more commissions. All right? So understand the basics of 1031, but more importantly, make sure you have your partner, your 1031 partner, in your phone on speed dial, so that when these questions come up and you can't remember the answer, you got me on speed dial, and we can solve your problems right away. All right? So that's the basics of 1031. Now, very importantly is to understand why an investor might want to even do a 1031. Let me give you an example of a client I worked with not too long ago that was working on a rental property listing and picked up the phone and gave me a call and said, "Hey, Leonard, I took your seminar a while ago and I want to introduce the idea of 1031 exchange to my client. What again is their tax bill if they don't do an exchange? And I said, well, it's going to be about 33%, or 1/3 of their gain is going to go to pay taxes. The client hung up the phone, picked up the phone and called their client and said, hey, Fred, we've got this rental listing for you. We're going to probably get an offer pretty quick. And I wanted to ask you, are you going to do an exchange? Because if you don't, about 1/3 of your gain is going to go to pay taxes. Client Fred said, what? I thought it was 15%. Realtor said, no, it's about 33% when you combine the state and the federal taxes. Got to think about both the state and the federal. Client said, what? Are you kidding me? I didn't know it was that high. Well, hell yeah, I'm interested in doing a 1031 exchange. Fred sold the property, did an exchange, went out and bought 4 new replacement properties with that same realtor. Client sold one, bought 4, got paid 5 times, 5 different commissions. And guess what? The client traded up in value because they went out and bought so many properties. All right. So when your clients understand that, hey, 1/3 of their gain might go to pay taxes, they are more inclined to listen to you about the possibilities of exchanging that property. So clients do exchanges, number one, because they don't want to pay taxes, right? Number 2, another reason why people will consider an exchange, as I mentioned, they want to buy more real estate. Okay. One of the things that you should be doing is having conversations with your investor clients and say, what is your long-term goal? Is your long-term goal just to own 1 rental property, or do you want to retire in 15 years with 10 properties and live off the passive income? If your client's goal is to build wealth in real estate, well, they're going to want to start understanding the 1031 exchange, selling some small properties, leveraging into bigger and better properties where they can get bigger and better rental income from. So if you have investors, or if you know investors, you can start helping them build wealth in the real estate market by getting into bigger and better properties. And you do it through the 1031 exchange so that the money that would have gone to the government now stays with them, and they get into bigger and better properties because 1/3 of their money didn't go to the government. It stayed in their pocket. All right. So people do 1031 exchanges because they don't want to pay taxes, and they want to use that money to leverage into bigger and better properties. 3rd reason. Some of your clients are already very wealthy. Some of your clients already own a lot of real estate. And when you own a lot of real estate, one of your main concerns is how to protect and preserve that wealth. Well, one of the best ways to protect and preserve wealth is through diversification. And when you own real estate, you can diversify either by going into different geographies, going into different types of real estate, or both. I have a lot of clients who right now are selling property in California because the market has gone bonkers, and they're buying in places like Texas and Idaho and Arizona where they can get better value. I have other clients who have sold all of their office properties and bought multifamily buildings because they do not believe people are going to go back to work at office buildings like they used to. So one of the things that you might want to consider is building a marketing campaign to the investors that you know who have a lot of properties and a lot of wealth in real estate, and ask them, is it time to diversify? Is it time to consider listing your California property and going into a different market? Is it time to consider a different type of real estate? Is it time to do both? If you put together that type of communication and you send it out to your investor base, I guarantee you at some point, one of your clients is going to say, you know what? It is time to diversify. And they're going to list their property with you. Another reason why people do exchanges has to do with time. And 2 things happen over time, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1, you get sick and tired of your property. And number 2, your property becomes fully depreciated. Both of those reasons are really good reasons to consider selling and doing an exchange. Imagine this. Imagine you are an 80-year-old real estate owner and you've been dealing with the tenants and the toilets and the trash for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Well, you're at a point now where maybe you want to spend less time with your tenants and more time with your grandkids. So one of your goals might be to sell your really tough to manage properties and exchange into something that you don't have to manage. Do you guys know any clients off the top of your head who are in their 70s and could benefit from maybe taking on a property that's just easier to manage? If you know them, talk to them. Talk about how you can make their life easier by selling their tough to manage property and getting them into something that they don't even have to manage. What type of real estate can you exchange into that you don't have to manage? Well, there are properties called triple net leased properties, like Walgreens or Rite Aid or Chick-fil-A, where your client can own them, but the tenant does all the management. Okay, those type of opportunities exist. All right, and then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about one of the more recent reasons why people are selling and doing exchanges. It's because of unfriendly legislation. We've got statewide rent control. Certain cities like San Francisco have super crazy rent control, and a lot of landlords in those areas say, forget it, don't want to deal with that. So they sell their property because of the unfriendly legislation on their locality, and they go and they exchange into a different area where there are no rent control laws, or maybe just better ones that they understand. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're thinking about putting together a marketing campaign, you need to really understand why investors will even do an exchange. And once you understand these reasons, you can capitalize on them and put together a really compelling marketing campaign that will get you new listings. Now, if you do not have existing clients, one of the things that you should do, if you don't have existing investor clients, one of the things that you should do is schedule a time to speak with your Cornerstone Title rep. Okay, I think I mentioned Suzanne was on the call. We've got a couple other of our great Cornerstone Title reps that are available to you. They can sit down with you and they can build farm lists, all right, of investors. They can go through the tax roll database and find people who have owned property for a very long time. And those people might be sick and tired of managing property, all right? So you can create a specific farm list, and then you can create a letter, or you don't even have to create a letter. You can use the letters that we have. We have pre-made templates. All you need to do is put your name in there, and you can have a marketing campaign tomorrow. All right. So Cornerstone Title can get you lists of people who've owned property for a very long time, and you can start a marketing campaign tomorrow. Cornerstone Title can also get you a list of people who own a lot of property in one specific area and might benefit from a diversification strategy. How about this? Cornerstone Title can get you a list of people who own property in your town but don't live in your town. Those are called absentee owners. And that's my favorite marketing strategy, because an absentee owner, someone who owns a property in your town but lives in Colorado or Texas or Florida or New York, those people do not understand the nuances of California rent control. And a lot of the cities who are coming up with COVID-19 rent control laws, well, that scares people who might not be familiar with those rules. And if you start talking to absentee owners about these issues, you might convince them to list and sell and do an exchange and buy something where they live, right? Because if they live in New York, they're going to understand New York laws because they live there. They might not be up to speed on the California laws. So these absentee owners are great people to target, and Cornerstone could give you a group or a list of all the people who own property in your town but live somewhere else. All right. So here are some farming ideas for you. If you think those are good farm lists, again, sit down with your Cornerstone title rep. You've got some great title reps available to you, and they can build those right away, and you can have 200, 300, 1,000 people to contact very easily within the next few days. All right. Now, when you contact those people, it's very important that you provide them solutions. All right. I love the fact that the real estate community does a lot of marketing of themselves. And everybody does it. I do it, right? I put my picture on my card. I tell people how long I've been in business. But what I find is that when I am able to solve a client's problem, I get the business. So if you can solve a client's problem, you're going to get their business. And let me tell you how you can go about doing this with investors. If you know that a client owns a property in a rent-controlled area, they're probably not going to have great cash flow, right? Because the government says, hey, you can only raise the rent a certain amount. Well, you know what you could do is you can show them in your marketing campaign how you could sell their property and get them 5 new properties in a 1031 exchange and double or triple their cash flow. All right. So do that in your marketing campaign. Give them concrete examples of what they can exchange into and what the current rents would be approximately. Because when you show them these concrete examples of what they can exchange into in a different market and how they might be able to triple their rent, guess what? You're going to stand out from every other realtor who has tried to do business with that investor, and you're going to get the listing. Okay, it might not be today, but guess what? They are going to remember you. And when they're ready to make this move, they're going to do it with you because you understand their specific need. You've demonstrated it in your marketing. Let me give you another example of how to market. This property, and it wasn't this specific property, but it was something like this. I had a client who had a property in Los Altos, and Los Altos is a fantastic area. The property was basically a piece of junk. It had been completely neglected. It was the value of the property was not the building. It was going to be torn down. The client who owned it was getting no rent or very little because the property was a piece of junk. It just happened to be in a phenomenal area. So what my client did was my client said, well, let me sell that property that's completely run down, getting you very little rent, and get you into a brand new apartment building where you can just own a slice of this property with an investment group and you can get a ton of monthly rental income. So go show your clients the opportunities that exist, right? In California, we have a lot of properties like this that are really run down, but because of where they're sitting, they're worth a lot of money. Show your clients, well, hey, if you traded into a different type of property in a different location, your monthly income can go through the roof. And guess what? Now you don't have to deal with this leaky roof or the toilets that leak. You get into a brand new property and it is almost management free. You're solving your client's problem. Another idea. Remember I was talking about California's rent control and California's laws and their unfriendly legislation? Well, one of the realtors that I work with, she actually prints out the rent control law, and the eviction process for her city. And she sends in the mail these slides or these pieces of information to all of the owners that own property in that particular city but live out of state. Again, people who live in Colorado, they don't understand California rent control, or they don't understand San Francisco or Santa Clara's rent control laws and eviction process. And do they want to? Well, my guess is most of them don't, right? So you have a unique opportunity to use your marketing to target those people. Okay, Cornerstone Title can tell you every single person in your county who owns property in your county but lives out of state. And you can start sending them rent control information and saying, hey, are you up to speed on this? Is this something you want to spend your time dealing with? Or would you like me to list your property, sell it, and you could do a 1031 exchange and buy in your state? Okay, that is a very effective marketing strategy. Because a lot of people just don't want to deal with this stuff, especially when they live in New York, 3,000 miles away. Now, lastly, one of the things that I think is very important in your marketing is to let people know that you do 1031 exchanges. Why do you need to let people know you do 1031 exchanges? Because once they know you do 1031 exchanges, they will do 1031 exchanges with you. Now, Jerry here, take a look at your computer screen. Jerry took my class years and years and years ago. And Jerry, after taking my class, went out and put on his business card that he was a 1031 exchange specialist. Now, Jerry had never done exchanges before, but Jerry understood, because he took my class, how easy it is to do an exchange. You help someone sell a property and you help them buy a new one. And you pick up the phone and you call me. That's all there is to an exchange, because I'm going to guide you through the process. I'm going to make sure that you're in compliance with the tax rules. And you, as a realtor, are going to help sell and help your client buy. If you know how to help your client sell and you know how to help your client buy real estate, and you know my phone number, you are a 1031 exchange specialist. You can do any 1031 exchange. I don't care if it's a $200,000 transaction or a $20 million transaction. All you need is my phone number, and you're going to get that exchange done. So let people know that you know how to do exchanges. When people know you do exchanges, you will start doing more exchanges. Let me give you an example. I was at my kid's soccer game way back when we used to play soccer before COVID-19, and I'm standing on the sidelines, and this girl comes up to me. She was a mom of one of the kids. She said, hey, Leonard, you're a 1031 guy, right? I said, yep. She said, my mother-in-law has got about 15 rental properties, and she's starting to do an exchange. Can we call you guys on Monday? I said, sure. She called us on Monday, and we've been doing exchanges with her for about a year now. The mother-in-law is selling all 15 properties because that lady knew I did exchanges. I'm doing 15 deals with her mother-in-law. I guarantee you there are people in your circle of influence, in your network, who, if they knew you did exchanges, guess what? You'd be doing exchanges with them right now. So don't be shy. Put on your business card that you understand 1031 exchange. Start sending out marketing campaigns. Put it on your website. The only qualification that you need to be a 1031 exchange specialist is you need to know my phone number, and you need to know how to get clients' properties sold and help them make offers to buy properties. I think all of you qualify. All right. Now, finally, you need to build your team. All right. You need to make sure that you've got the right people on your team. And I think, hopefully, we've demonstrated that as an exchange company, A, we want to be on your team, and B, we're more than qualified. Very, very, very importantly, you also have to have a fantastic escrow and title company. And that's where Susan and Sarah and Kelly over at Cornerstone come into play. They are going to help you guys build these lists They're going to help you get your marketing campaign going, and then they're going to help you close your deal on time. All right. What I want to do is, Suzanne is on the call. Suzanne Borg, if you guys know her, she's fantastic. She is going to share her screen, and she's going to show you some of the tools that Cornerstone Title has available and how they can create really good farm lists for you right away. So Suzanne, are you there? I think I see your screen now, and let's go ahead and test your audio.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. I can hear you, so I assume everybody else can. We've got 34 people on the call who are dying to see these lists that you can create. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take it over.
Thank you, Leonard. Yeah, that is such an awesome presentation. Every time I see it, I glean a new piece of information, and you definitely are the expert. And I love that you give us your direct number to call you if we ever have a question or a client who is wondering something and we don't know the answer. We have you in our back pocket, so thank you for that. This is our Title Pro 24/7. If you do not have an account set up for this, please reach out to your branch's title rep, either Sarah or Krista, Darrell, Brian Kano, myself, Kelly. Anybody can get you set up with a free account. And I'm just going to pick a couple of the scenarios that Leonard talked about where we can farm and show you quickly how to do it. Of course, we are happy to meet with you one-on-one and kind of go into this more detail because I'm just going to kind of wham bam it here. So the first scenario that I'm going to talk about is depreciation. So Leonard talked about how when you own a property for 25, 26, 27 years, they start to run out of depreciation to write off on their taxes. So we are going to target people that own a rental property that has been owned for maybe like 26 to 30 years. And I'm just going to kind of pick an area here. We'll kind of go downtown San Jose. I think there's quite a few like rental properties down here. And you can either, if you want to target specific areas, you can use this polygon feature, or there's also a radius option. So I'm just going to kind of start dropping some pins around here and we'll see what we come up with in this area. And we'll complete the polygon. We're going to add all these properties. So everything kind of jumps over to the right here. You can see there are 2,774, but we're going to funnel it down a little bit. We're going to go to the property tab right here and make sure that we're just looking at single families and condos. So let's do residential here. You can see it pops up condo and single family. We'll add that and it'll funnel us down to about 1,800 properties. And again, we want to make sure these are rental properties. So we're going to go to owner occupied and we're going to say no. And we're going to add that. So that jumps over, that funnels us down to about 506 properties. And then our very last option, like I said, we want to make sure these are, rental properties that have been owned for 26 to 30 years. So we're going to go down to recording date or sale date. So right here, sale recording date, we'll click there. We're just going to put in, we'll do January, or maybe since we're in October, we'll do October 1st of 1990 to October 1st of 1994. Is that making sense? If they purchased it between 1990 and 1994, that would make them having owned it for 26 years, right? I think I'm doing that right. That gives us 8 properties. So that is a small number. We can broaden that polygon a little bit or drag our diameter out a little bit, but that just kind of gives you an idea. You could send a very targeted marketing letter to 8 people. You could even write it yourself, but as Leonard said, we do have some pre-written letters at your disposal as well, just saying, hey, I see that you've owned this rental property for this many years. The likelihood is that you're running out of depreciation to write off on this property. I am a 1031 exchange expert and I can help you do a 1031 exchange and get into a different property, and your depreciation will reset and you can go back to writing all of that off on your taxes. So that is one way of targeting 1031 exchanges, and this will get you a listing, right? So this approach is to get a listing out of it. I'm going to clear all of these. And another way that I think is pretty cool, if you want to target buyers for a property that you have a listing on. Say you have a listing that's been sitting for a little while, which we know the market's hot right now, but some properties are sitting for a little bit. So let's go back to our map. I'm gonna go way out here. Let's say we're in, let's just pick a little area over here in kind of the Willow Glen, Campbell. Say your property is right here in the middle of Campbell. And I'm just gonna draw a radius out. And we will add this over. So we're gonna see there's 4,000 properties over here. And our house is sitting right here in the prune yard, and we haven't had any offers on it. It's just a listing that's sitting there. And we're gonna just send a letter out and target investors in this area. So we're gonna go back over to property and we're gonna say owner occupied, no, and we're gonna add it. So this drops us to about 720. So we know that 720 homes in the radius around our listing are owned by investors. And you can send out a letter to all of them. We can funnel it even a little bit more if you'd like, or kind of shrink the radius depending on the number of letters you want to mail or how broad of a net you want to cast. But write a letter to them and say, hey, this property is for sale. I see you own another investment property in this area. We can do an exchange, or maybe they're just an investor that wants to buy another property, but it is a 1031 exchange opportunity there for them. And then the last one that I want to show you, Leonard talked about kind of the long time ownership issues, right? The tenants and the termites and the trash and the toilets, things that maybe an older owner would not want to be dealing with. So within our premium farm tab, so these premium leads are run about 6 cents a lead, so they're pretty inexpensive. But you can target demographics. So you can look at people that are within, 65 to 75 or even 80 years of age that own an investment property, and you can write them a letter and say, hey, I know that these are some of the problems that come with owning a property, and you could do a 1031 exchange. You lay out all of the benefits that Leonard just educated us about, and say, I can help you get out of this property and get into one that is more manageable for you. So we can do it. I'm just going to show you maybe by zip code. So let's go to 95030. We're going to add that. You can see here there are 6,000 properties in there. And then we're going to go over to property again. We're going to make sure it's non-owner occupied. We're going to click no here, funnel it down. So in all of 95030, there are 651 properties that are owned by somebody who does not live in the property. And then we're going to go to demographics, and this is where the premium leads come in. So we're going to go to age. We're going to say maybe 68 to 78. Maybe we'll go 65. So that narrows it down to 43. So you have 43 people that you could be sending something to saying, hey, I see that you own this property. You know their age, that they're getting a little bit older and maybe don't want to deal with all of those things anymore, and write a very specific message to them like, hey, I can help you do a 1031 exchange, get out of this property and get into something that's a little bit easier to manage. And it's just a really awesome targeted approach. And I think it's a great way to kind of maybe kick off your marketing for 2021. If you've been farming at all, you can add this to your normal farm, but it's just a different approach. And I don't see that there are very many agents out there going after this specific type of transaction. And now that you have Leonard and you know a little bit more about it, I think it's just a really great way to diversify your farming. So those are the 3 ways that I have. Again, reach out to me, reach out to your rep if you want those demonstrated a little bit further, or if you have another specific idea that you gleaned from the webinar today and you want to go after. We're happy to work alongside you to come up with the farm list for those.
All righty, thanks so much. I had a couple questions pop up, and nothing too technical. People just wanted to know if the webinar was going to be recorded. The answer to that is yes. So we record all of our webinars and then we post them to our YouTube channel. We will send out the link for that. So if you want to review this later or if you want to share it with a colleague, feel free to do so. Other than that, doesn't look like we have any other questions. I think, Suzanne, is there anything else you wanted to go over, or is that a wrap?
I believe that's a wrap. Yeah, if I would just say put your email or your contact information in the chat. If you do want us to reach out to you directly, just let us know there, and we're happy to kind of close the loop with you guys.
All right. Actually, one question here from Jackie. She wanted to know about the leads on the Title Pro with a premium account. Can we get their phone number and email address?
Yes, you can. So that is also, yes, that is part of it. That's the short answer. Okay. We can show you how. I'll take that one offline though.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for attending today, and keep an eye out for an email this afternoon. We'll send out just a follow-up email with that link to the YouTube recording. If there's anything we can help out from a 1031 exchange perspective, if you have a deal coming up, please don't hesitate to call us if you need consultation or questions in that regard. And the team over at Cornerstone obviously can help you get those great leads and send out a marketing campaign, and you'll be doing some 1031 exchanges real soon. Thank you guys all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your afternoon and look forward to working with you all very soon.
Thank you, Leonard.